Okay. So when we're talking about today, I'm going to bring up this word a whole bunch of times, and it's triumvirate. Now, when you see that root tri, what am I immediately talking about? What number am I immediately referring to? Hebron.
The number 3.
Right. Okay. Very good. It's 3. So what a triumvirate is it's a government of 3 officers or magistrates functioning jointly. Simply put, it's 3 people working together, period. It's 3 people working together. So here I have an example. It's the 3 Eevee brothers from Pokemon. The original 3 Eevee evolutions, even though I know there's like a bajillion now, were Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon. With those 3, you should be able to defeat any Pokemon, right? Because they don't have any combined weaknesses. They all have their own strengths, but when acting together, they don't have any weaknesses. It's the same idea here, but instead of Pokemon, we're talking about Roman officers or Roman officials.
Romifan.
So we have one of these 3 people in this alliance we're going to spend most of the time on because he's the most successful, and quite frankly, I think he's one of the coolest people to ever live. And his name is Julius Caesar. Now, this is actually Julius Caesar. This is somebody else, okay? But we'll start with this, and then I'll move it. So we have Julius Caesar, Caesar's beginnings. Spencer Martin, what's up? All right, I'm going to keep going. If I hear you, I'll stop. So he was born on July 12th or 13th. We don't really know. It's interesting. For somebody as famous as him, you would think we would know what day. But it's because his family had lost a lot of their status from before, and they were kind of in a dark period. He was born to a patrician family. Patrician, rich or poor? Or powerful or not powerful?
They're poor.
Joel.
They're poor and slaves.
Nope, exact opposite. Patricians, it comes from the word father, the one that presides over everybody else. So patrician is supposed to be a wealthy, powerful family. They were not. They were patrician in name, but they had lost all of their status. Okay? Now, his uncle, Marius, this guy, who did have a complete nose, I promise, fought a future dictator, which is somebody who has absolute power for 6 months, and he stays in a lot longer. For power in 91 BCE, that's when Caesar was 9. He loses, okay? And because of that, Sulla, the guy that he fought, we'll get to him in a second, he doesn't trust Marius. He doesn't trust Julius Caesar. And because of that, he has to be in fear for his life constantly growing up. Because if they make Sulla mad, all he needs to do is send some people over there, and he's either going to kick them out or he's going to kill them. Now, if that was your life growing up, how would that make you feel towards Sulla, or the person who is threatening your family and could kill you at any second? This is not a trick question. Tenzin. Salman.
I'd be terrified.
Right. Terrified. There's definitely going to be fear there. What's another emotion that would come up through that? Julius Caesar, he's very human, but also I don't think he feels fear very normally. He takes it a different way. Jada.
Once you said that, I was going to say mad.
And you'd be correct. Right. He gets angry. His entire life, he wants revenge on Sulla for making him and his family have to feel this way. Now, let's get into Sulla. I brought him up enough. Let's lay this out on the table first, okay? And yes, he did have a nose, and I'll show you a picture of what he probably looked like in a second. He is not part of the triumvirate. In fact, you could argue he's the reason why they ended up creating it in the first place, to get away from him. Now, He instigated or started a civil war in Rome to gain power. What does it mean? What does it mean when you have a civil war? Who are the parties involved in a civil war? Spencer Martin.
I hope this works. Can you hear me?
Yep.
The party. Emmy. Shh. Emmy.
We had one in the United States, right?
Yep. I'm just trying to think.
So what a civil war technically is it's a fight on the inside, right? It's two or more groups in the same country or same city, same area that are fighting each other. Now, what Sulla realizes is that over time, Rome expands so much and it's so safe in the middle that they actually don't keep a lot of armed forces there. So Sulla's like, hey, I'm a general. I've got a whole bunch of legions. That's like groups of 5,000, right? At my disposal. I'm just going to take those guys, march into the city of Rome where there's like nobody. And then I'm going to say, hey, look, I'm dictator now. And there's nothing you can do about it. And it works. And Marius ends up fighting against him because he thinks that it's wrong. But here's the deal. First of all, this is what brings about terrible times for Julius Caesar and his family. But then second of all, it sets an idea. Wait, Sulla did that and it was pretty easy. I wonder if somebody could do that again. And Julius Caesar is not only going to think about that, he's actually going to make it a reality for himself. So not only is he angry at Sulla, I think in a way, a really weird way, he sees him as like an inspiration. So this is what, So this is what they think Sulla might have looked like, a computer-generated version of him. Yes, like I said, he had a nose. And then this is what they think Marius might have looked like with a computer-generated image. Now, Mr. Lee, don't you think that that looks a lot like Julius Caesar? I think they did a great job of showing the relation there.
Oh, yeah, like that, like the squat, like flat top of the head. Like a wider brow than like the jaw.
Right.
That looks
I actually was
creepy.
pretty convinced that that was Julius Caesar himself, but I looked at the statue and then looked up, and yeah, that's definitely Marius. So very interesting.
It's really
Pearl, what's up?
I'm gonna have to go in a few minutes because my dad's gonna drop me off at my mom's work so he can have an interview to get a new job.
All right, awesome. Well, then watch the recording where we left off, and then you can pick up on the notes and the exit ticket, okay? All right. So back to the triumvirate. We have 3 members. Now, I'll pronounce the names, but I want to tell you one thing that you need to know. I left spaces in between these 3 guys. For your assessment tomorrow, you need to know what each of these 3 guys brought to the table. And what I mean by that is, what did they bring to this triple alliance? Like one in the Evie brothers, one brings a Vaporeon, a Jolteon, and a Flareon. What did each of these 3 guys bring? And I will tell you as we go through them. So you might need to go back and write it down, or you could write it down in their particular slides. It's up to you, but you got to know it. You got to know it. So we have number 1, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, otherwise known as Pompey the Great, which is what I'm going to call him. There's Marcus Licinius Crassus, otherwise known as Crassus. That's the link from the Spartacus revolt to today, right? We talked about Crassus in there. He's the one that led the charge that actually defeated Spartacus. And then there's Gaius Julius Caesar, otherwise known as Julius Caesar. Okay? Crassus is a little bit older than the other 2, but they're kind of around the same age, but they all have different talents, and that's key. Mr. Leaf.
Gaius Julius wasn't known as Caesar at this time, though, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's just for us to keep it straight who he is the whole time. I put him down as Gaius Julius Caesar. You're correct.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Number one, Pompey the Great. He was a general under Sulla. He was incredibly successful, smart, and brought about a lot of military victories for Rome. So what he brings to the table is leadership. So number one, Pompey the Great, he brings leadership or military leadership. They all have it, but Pompey has the most of it. Sulla's going to die in 78 BCE. Okay, when he dies, there's a problem, right? He's been in power for a while now, and they kind of need somebody who is going to step up and be a leader that's popular, that people can respect and trust. And Pompey is going to be that guy. So when Sulla dies, he goes to the Senate, the most important body in the Republic, and says, look, guys, in order to fill this hole that's left by Sulla dying, if you can give me some powers, I promise I'm going to be respectful and I'm going to keep the Republic together after all this crud that just happened. And the Senate's like, you know what, Pompey? We trust you, man. We'll back you. So they give him those powers. Now, eventually, 8 years later, Crassus, the guy from the Spartacus revolt, he's going to end up being elected consul. And they join forces together. They actually had fought together way before, or not way before, the year before in the Spartacus revolt. So interestingly enough, they met each other through that, and then they started to work together after. Mr. Leaf, do you have something additional?
All right, that was from earlier. My bad.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Now, Pompey also did something that was really extraordinary. When he was out east, so we're talking the Phoenicia area, more Asia Minor, brings in a lot of territories. And as we talked about before, as Rome takes over territories, they take tax money from them. So because of him, people in Rome, the money in their pocket went up by 70%. So let's say, and I want you to tell me your opinion here, if you made $20 a month for allowance, and then for no reason, your parents just came up to you and said, oh, Jada, Addie, guess what? You're making $35 now. You're not doing anything extra. You're just making $35 now. How would you feel about your parents in that moment?
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd appreciate if you raised your hand, but you're right. You'd feel great, right? You'd be like, what did I do to deserve this? Whatever. I'm not going to ask any questions. This is awesome. That's how the people of Rome felt about Pompey, right? He's putting 70% extra money in their pocket that they wouldn't have had before. They loved him. And he was a great public figure. All right. Person number 2 in the triumvirate. Marcus Licinius Crassus. We'll call him Crassus. He was Rome's richest man by far. And how he gained his wealth was he was a landlord, not much unlike how people become landlords today. He bought up a bunch of properties that people would live in the city of Rome and other areas, I think, and would charge them rent for it. And he did it to such a large scale. Well, he already had money to begin with, but he made a lot more. And he becomes so rich that he's going to use that to campaign to become consul. But you need to have more than just money. But when it comes to the triumvirate and you're asking Mr. Plog, what did he bring to the table? Ladies and gentlemen, he brought money. He brought money. He's the one that ends up defeating Spartacus, right? So that gives him more popularity, right? People were freaking out. They were scared that the slave rebellion was having such success. So he becomes popular enough, along with his mullah, to get elected consul. Now, here's the deal. We need to bring in a third person because I want you to tell me what or how long are people in office for when they're elected to be a consul? I'll tell you right now, it's not very long. Tenzin. Kelsey.
1 year.
1 year. And then after that, this is a picture of Spartacus, by the way, or a statue. You can't be elected for another 10. So eventually they're like, wait, we have the two of us. We can rotate in being consuls, but we really need a third person. And this third person is going to be Gaius Julius Caesar. Now, Caesar was seen as a genius, but if you look at the bottom bullet, what he really brings to the triumvirate was he was an amazing speaker. And really, he connected with the lower class of people very well. He had a tough background. He grew up in fear of his life, and he enrolled or joined the army very young and rose up through the ranks. He was a true success story. People related to him and people wanted to be him. So he's going to be elected consul in 59 BCE when he's 41 years old, pretty young. And where he's going to get his popularity from is like Crassus beating Spartacus, Pompey taking the Eastern Mediterranean. Caesar is going to take all of Gaul. Well, most of it, which we now know today as France. But his claim to fame, what is going to have him be the person that makes the third piece of the triumvirate, what he brings to the table, is the fact that he is an amazing speaker. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to get to the last two slides today. I knew that was going to happen. That's fine. We're going to go through those on our Tuesday Ed puzzle because we don't have school on Monday. Wednesday, next week, we're going to have a Socratic seminar. It's going to be about Julius Caesar and who he was about as a person. Okay? So I want you to keep that in mind because we're not going to have another live class for a while. Now, I understand that we might have some people that need to get some bullet points or some extra spaces out of the notes, and that's fine. But it is 10:30. We went through everything that you're going to need in the exit ticket. So if you don't have any questions, you are now officially free to go, ladies and gentlemen. If you got any questions, stick around.
Okay, bye, Potato.
Would you? So you would say his greatest addition to the triumvirate was his speaking?
Right.
Public
And
persona?
his speaking allowed him to relate to the masses or the
Yeah.
plebeian. But
Absolutely. Okay.
yeah, I think all three of them had that ability, but I think when we're trying to differentiate between the three and like a matching portion of the test, probably the best way to say it.
Absolutely. Okay, cool.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Mr. Plog.
See ya.
Oh, I thought you were frozen for a second, Mr. Plug. You were just so still. You're like,
No, I'm actually pretty good at that. I'm a hunter, so I know how to sit still.
let's see.
Tenzin, what's up, man? Having a hard time hearing you today. Let's see what's going on. Do you have your camera on right now? Why don't you go ahead and unplug your headphones? See if that helps.